So my Black Widow build mainly focuses on increased damage from Power Surge, her ultimate heroic ability. With that being said, it does have a little bit of a battery effect that's possible that can go on here. My Black Widow build is kind of more all around in my opinion than anything else, because you can get a battery effect from the light combo finisher as well as a battery effect from the high caliber shot, which I enjoy doing. So it's kind of just a mixture of both, but I'll go ahead and go in depth with it so you can see my stats on the right and my stats above my main pieces of gear. Like I said, because it is a main focus on damage from Power Surge, I do have a higher heroic stat with her, which is the point, because the higher heroic stat you have, the more damage you're able to do with your heroics. And it also helps because it has a great battery effect from Widow's Bite, the punch variation, because that will do inherent shock. So if you can hit it with a battery effect, it will do incredible damage. So I'll get into that. So with each individual piece, so I got this piece from the Elite Raid, and the two main things here is that, well, I shouldn't even say two, there's multiple things about this. So we'll first look at the stats. So it's triple stat, which you can either do triple or double stat. The only thing with double stats is the two stats that it has on a piece of gear, it will focus on more, like they'll be in the hundreds instead of the 80s, but you will be losing out on an additional stat like resilience. So I usually prefer to do triple stat to have that resilience on there. The main two things about this is light combo finishers deal vibranium damage, and then 35% increased critical attack damage while invisibility is active. So those are the two main perks that I like to focus on for this piece, and then it is from the Elite Raid, like I said. Now for the ranged piece, so the main things that I'm focusing on here, so the precision and the resilience are what I do prefer with it, because when I was originally making this build, I kind of had more in mind a focus on ranged battery effect with the high caliber shot. But it kind of morphed into a mixture of both light combo battery effect and the ranged. But the main two perks here are that the high caliber shot can deal sonic damage, and ranged critical attacks have a chance of activating vibranium payload, so it's easier to apply vibranium that way as well. Now for the defensive piece, so this is also from the Elite Raid, I forget if I said that. This is also from the Elite Raid for the defensive piece. And the main thing here are the stats, but then the perk for 25% additional impact bonus for any attack against an enemy afflicted with vibranium status. That's not a bad perk to have when I'm trying to apply vibranium more often than not. So that is not a bad perk to have whatsoever. But the main thing with this piece is the resilience, the might, and the precision on it. But I got this from the Elite Raid. Now with the heroic piece, so forgive me, I should have been writing these down as I went, because I'm so used to most of my gear coming from the Elite Raid that I just kind of assume that that's just where they come from. This piece is not from the Elite Raid. It is from one of three places. It is either an exotic you could get from the priority mission, an exotic you can get from the villain sectors, or an exotic you can get from the vault. I am honestly unsure which one it is, so forgive me for that, but it is one of those ones. And if you get the exotic heroic, like let's say you do the villain sector and you get the exotic for the heroic slot, if it's not this, that means it is a different one. You're not going to be able to roll different exotics from one thing. So if you try the villain sector, you get the exotic for this slot, and it's not this, then try the next one. Try the vault. If it's not the vault, then it's the priority mission, and so on and so forth. But obviously this has Valor and Might on it. And then all three of these perks are really good. So guaranteed chance of landing a critical hit when attacking an enemy from behind while invisible, 15% increased damage when invisibility is active, and then increases the duration of invisibility by 3 seconds. So obviously all of these perks are really good. Now, as far as the minor artifacts go, the main thing you do want to try to get are the triple Valor ISO stats, because you want to increase the heroic stat as much as possible for the Power Surge damage. I will say that these two perks, so the heroic increased regeneration from support for the support heroic, and then 13% increased damage from light combo finishers, these are very ideal perks for these minor ISOs. And I won't lie, you could say I quote-unquote cheated to get them, but not really. So essentially what you can do, on PlayStation at least, I'm not entirely sure if you can do it on Xbox or PC, but if you disconnect your PlayStation from the internet, you can set your PlayStation to a specific date. and you can check the different faction vendors to see what they have. So this minor artifact specifically, as you can see, it's the same for both slots. You can set your PlayStation to August 26th or 27th, 2044, and the Shield faction vendor will have this ISO. So what you can do is set it to that date, check the Shield faction vendor, buy the ISO, close the app, reset your PlayStation back to present day, go back in the game, recheck the Shield faction vendor to make sure the shop reset, and then do it again, reset it back to the August 26th, 27th date, 2044, and you'll be able to buy that minor artifact again. So I was able to get this minor artifact with multiple different heroes because it is very good with the light combo finisher perk and the support heroic recharge rate. But if you're unable to do this, the main thing you want to do is the triple stat Valor ISO. That's what matters above anything else. And for the major artifact, I always do the Nornstone of Lethal Will just because I like to have the option to activate a damage boost on the fly, and it is especially helpful when fighting bosses more than anything else. So that I prefer the Nornstone of Lethal Will above anything else. Now we'll talk about the skill configuration. So with this being said, not all of these skill configurations are going to be a necessity for this build. So I'll say which ones I think are more necessary for this specific build than others. So 420% increased damage to nearby enemies when activating Veil of Shadows. I mean, they increased this so much with the latest update that I would say this is a necessity, so I would do that. Increases the critical attack chance for teammates cloaked by Veil of Shadows by 30%. I would say that's more of your personal preference than anything else, but I would strongly suggest to go with that one. Widow's Lightning Fist configuration for Widow's Bite, it's the punch, and it can do shock on the punch. I would say this is an absolute must because this is one of your strongest battery effects that you can have that can take place, because not only are you increasing your damage from Power Surge, but it increases your damage with Lightning Fist as well, the higher your heroic stat is. So if you can apply Vibranium and then hit them with a Lightning Fist, it's going to do a lot of damage as well. So I would say Lightning Fist is a must. And then I would give you the additional Widow's Bite charge. I would say that's a must as well. And then for Power Surge, so increases damage of Widow's Bite while Power Surge is active by 20%. You can see how it's tying together, so I would say that is an absolute must. And then increases stun damage while Power Surge is active by 30%. I would say that's kind of your preference, but I would do it over the other one, so that's just me. Now for this, so increases critical attack damage by 15% while overcharged. I would absolutely do that. Not entirely sure why nothing was selected on this one, so I'll do this one on the fly right now. So let me read. All attacks increase the charge rate, Shadow Ops, Headshot boost, intrinsic Shadow Ops energy, takedowns boost, an increased amount of intrinsic Shadow Ops by 20 points. I'm going to go ahead and say this. All attacks increase the charge rate of the intrinsic Shadow Ops by 15%, but that's more your personal preference. I don't think any of these are super serious. Increases the rate at which heroic energy recharges while overcharged by 15%. I would say that's an absolute must, so you can get Power Surge and Lightning Fist back faster. And then Cluster Grenade, this is going to be your personal preference. Adds significant shock damage to grenades, that's your personal preference. And then increases the magazine size for all pistol variants, that's your personal preference. Increases ranged attack damage while invisible by 12%. I would say this is a necessity. Heroic energy recharges 15% faster while invisible. I would say that's also a necessity to get the heroics back. Increases critical attack damage while invisible by 15%. I would say that is an absolute necessity. Performing a takedown forces an enemy to drop a heroic orb. That's your preference. I just prefer heroic orbs to the other orbs. Increases critical attack damage from headshots by 20%. I would say that's a necessity. And then increases damage from light combo finishers or heavy combo finishers by 25%. I would say that's an absolute necessity. So absolutely this one 100%. As far as the champion skills go, I try to live by this, but as I can see for myself, I've clearly violated it. But I try to do this one, and then this one in that order. So try to get the columns to at least 3 or 4, and then in that order, because these two are going to increase your defense. So the more you can increase your defense from champion skills, the less you have to worry about it on the actual stats. So I would do these two first to increase your defense, and then this one to boost your overall critical damage. That's how the advice that I give to build everybody first. I sometimes abide by it, sometimes don't, depending on how my defense is for their builds anyway. If I don't have to worry about the defense as much, then I kind of break that rule a little bit. But this is my build for Black Widow. Comment down below how you might build your Black Widow. If you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content, and I will end this video with footage of this build in action. And I appreciate you for watching the video.